Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bulletproof Selling. My name is Sean Rhodes, and I am the Chief Sales Architect here at Bulletproof Selling, author of the book Bulletproof Selling, a guide for systemizing sales on the battlefield of business. Now, here at Bulletproof Selling, we believe that hope is not a sales strategy. So we're here to increase the performance of salespeople, the performance of their pipelines, and the results of their teams. Now, in this live stream series, whether you're catching us live on air or you're catching the podcast recording, we get to share insights from the top minds in sales, from best-selling authors, trainers, and those out there that are actually in the field managing sales teams. So my commitment to you is that out of every single show that we do, myself and my guest, we're going to build a sales system that you can use no matter the size of your goals or the size of your business or your team. So it is absolutely my pleasure today to welcome our guest, because he's been in the world of sales and been on the front lines for quite some time and now managing teams. So, Mr. Jim Bowman, welcome to the show, sir. Jim is president of the life insurance line at Advisors Excel, which I'm interested to hear about how that world has changed in a bit. But you're in a different model. I mean, you're not actually selling life insurance, as I understand, managing people. They're helping people sell insurance. So, you're actually kind of the umbrella that makes that whole industry move. So welcome to the show, sir. Let's get started. Tell me about yourself, your company, and the salespeople that you manage.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor. I really appreciate the opportunity to hopefully help some others. I've been with Advisors Excel 11 years now. We started this division from scratch. I think I had 4 people. We're up to about 95 now people on the team. And wow. Our organization, Advisors Excel, really started as working with financial advisors that really worked in the retirement space, primarily guaranteed income with fixed annuity products. And then we opened up a division to service those people. So, Sean, we're a wholesaler, and we're an ancillary product line for our customers. And with that, I've got to make sure my team doesn't mess up the main product line first and foremost. Otherwise, I lose a job pretty quickly. So how do we support the organization and then really bring value to our client, the financial advisor?
Yeah, and so let's dive into that, because people hear life insurance, and we all might know a life insurance agent, or we have a life insurance agent, but yet that's not entirely what it is that your folks do at Advisors Excel. You're not the ones that are out there often in the field directly selling to the end user. So help me understand a little bit about the business model that you guys have there at Advisors Excel and how life insurance fits into that.
So our model is to find really strong financial advisors that are working in the retirement space, and then give them more education to grow tools, whether it's through their broker dealer, through annuity products, through life products, through med supp products, and how we can show them a holistic approach to deal with their clients. And life insurance is, a lot of people don't love the name. They don't, it doesn't bring great thoughts to a lot of people. So our job is to show the value of this amazing asset class to our advisors, so they want to bring life insurance to their clients. And that all comes, that's the art of what we do, is getting our advisors who don't really love life insurance or don't really understand it so well because they've been focusing in other financial instruments, how we can bring it to life for them so it's meaningful in their practice and then to their clients.
I love it. Okay, so I think I've got the model then. You're the folks that are looking for the people that may not have life insurance as a line they can offer, or they're looking for a different supplier of it, someone with more expertise, more back-end services, someone, kind of that all-stop shop, if you will, for that particular product line. So that's awesome. Now, you mentioned something really, really interesting in your intro. You said you'd grown your team from 4 to how many people over the course of 11 years?
About 95.
95. That is a massive growth rate. And I'd be willing to bet that the people that are really thinking forward, that are relying on more than just hoping they remember what to do next, tend to be the better salespeople in Advisors Excel, especially the people that you manage. Because I know if you've grown from 4 to 94, you've turned some people over in that time. Of that, I can guarantee. There were a lot of salespeople that were just not a good fit for what you do. So I'd love to know from you, where do you see salespeople, either the ones that you've let go or the ones that you have now or the ones that you know of, how are they relying on hope a little more than they should as part of their strategy?
Well, I think along those lines, and that's why I love your your story that you don't want to rely on hope, right? And the people that rely on hope, are, they're winging it. They are, just kind of, shotgun approach. Hopefully they have success, but they're good enough to last. Otherwise, they'd be out of the business. So they're good enough to last, but are they being truly efficient? Are they really driving value for their client? Because you've heard me say this when we talked earlier, this is still a relationship business. And I think most businesses are still relationship oriented. So I want my team to be prepared. Prepared means having an agenda. That means going in with a game plan versus winging it. So we've got a couple of strategies that we really focus in on to help our advisors understand where this asset class can be a fit for them.
And for all the clients that I have, I totally agree with you. The folks that are relying more on hope than they should, they are winging it. And in the realm of what you said, hey, all sales is a relationship business. I don't care if it's a transactional sale that's completely e-commerce. It's the relationship the person has with the brand, or whether it's a large sale where you really have, months or years sometimes of a sales cycle to close that big deal. It's all based on relationships. Now, without a system, without some game plan, like you said, you are still managing relationships, but by default, you can only manage a few of those, because we can't keep in our heads and on the tip of our tongues every detail that we've had of every conversation with this one person for the last 10 years. So a lot of us are relying on things like CRMs, like spreadsheets, like even notebooks, if you really want to go old school, let's keep track of that agenda. So for the systemized salespeople that you've seen that do really, really well, how are they able to scale the number of relationships that they have? Because I know in life insurance, more than a lot of other industries, that relationship is critical. That's what's going to make or break the deal. So how are they scaling their relationships and keeping all of those details and facts in a place where they don't have to try to remember them on every conversation?
Well, what we've tried to do is go to a Salesforce system that we've customized for ourselves. So any division in the organization can go to that and see the latest conversations, what's going on, what's the value that we're bringing to that relationship. So that's where it starts. From there, everybody's an individual, and you know that. Some people still love to make notes, and that's great, but you still got to add things to the system that other people can view. So I think, in an ideal world, everybody would go to one place, and we're trying to get there. But in the real world, I think people are individuals, and for example, I probably keep a little too much upstairs that I should, but I'm working on it. Like all of us, we're trying to get better.
For sure. And I often think to myself after every sales conversation I have, how much data can I get into my system so that I don't have to remember it? And it really comes back to something you mentioned, which is having a game plan. For myself and for the clients that I get to work with, a game plan is not just a general agenda of what we might talk about, which is basically, hey, I've got this thing to sell. Would you like to buy some of it today or sometime in the future? It really gets more specific because I need to know more about my prospects. And I know your folks do too, than just, are you interested in life insurance? In your industry, your salespeople might want to know the size of the organization they're selling into, right? Is it just one advisor? Is it an advisor that sits over 100 other people? So what are some of the things that you really recommend your salespeople research and look into either before or during their sales conversations to help them flesh out that game plan?
Well, it starts with gathering information, Sean. I mean, you have to be able to engage a conversation and learn about their business and learn in a way that shows that you care, not that you're just filling out a sheet. They've got to know you care, right? We want repeat business. We want to develop a relationship where it's not just about us. It's a two-way street. We want to show you, if you're the advisor, how we can help enhance your relationship with your clients, enhance your bottom line. And that doesn't come without taking the time to learn what their sales process is. Is life insurance even in that sales process? If it is, we're using it. If not, why? What are the things that we have to overcome? So that all comes from developing a real relationship that's meant to be a long-term relationship.
And I know that sales process is something that your advisors help their life insurance agents out with. Am I right? To help them develop it or define it or clarify it?
Well, yes, some of our advisors have great sales process, and we're just looking to tweak and bring in, well, maybe
Right.
it's a long-term care issue that hey, you're missing this. In a holistic plan,
Hmm.
here's how it might come in. Or maybe it's about taxes. They haven't really talked about taxes on qualified money. Well, let me just show you a tool that we have that can highlight that. And then here's the opportunities you have to help your client deal with those tax issues. In both those
Hmm.
instances, life insurance is a great potential solution to those problems. We want to make sure that they're presenting those solutions.
And then something that I know a lot of our listeners are going to be interested in, because we've got listeners from across industries, right? It's not just financial services or life insurance, but everybody is challenged with getting better conversations, which it sounds like your people have really cracked the code on. And for everything you're telling me, they're just really inquiring about business issues. What are the goals that you have as an agent? What does that sales plan look like? And I define sales plan or sales process this way: if there's multiple people in an organization, if I sat each of them down and had them map out that process and then brought them back to the table, how many of them would be similar? And the answer
Right.
to that almost 100% of the time is they're not similar at all. So if it's just an individual, which I know a lot of your folks are working with a singular agent, maybe they're not captive. They've got the choice of a lot of different lines they could sell, but they're really working for themselves. I asked them, hey, if you were to map out your sales process on a sheet of paper and then I listened to one of your sales calls, how closely would you actually be following it? Or would it look like, this is a piece of music that I've composed, but I'm really just playing jazz, which often happens when people try to think about a sales process on the fly. So if you're advising your folks on business strategy, which it sounds like you're really coming down to with your agents, how do your folks, your salespeople, begin to wrap their heads around the business model of the industry that they're selling into? Which I think your answer really is going to help out those people that are really at the beginning of their sales careers. How do I wrap my head around the business of the people I'm selling to?
So this is multiple ways because it's a free-flowing conversation, and every office we do business with is the same but different. So you have to
Right.
understand what that difference is, and then what is their affinity to life insurance, to our product line. There's some advisors
Mm.
that, candidly, it's the Heisman. I don't want to deal with it until somebody asks me, and then I need you to be Johnny
Right.
on the spot. Okay, now I know.
Yep.
At least I got a shot. Right now, I got to work on the relationship. And others, they have such a fine-tuned process that it's amazing. And as you well know, the stronger the process, the more successful that office is. And that's their definition of
Mm-hmm.
success. It's not mine. It's not yours. It's what do they
Right.
want success to look like. And so for life
So
insurance,
it
what we
sounds
try.
like we're starting with actually helping them define or helping them clarify what success might look like. Because often as business people, I know my success is, keeping my job, maybe closing more deals, getting more top line revenue. But if you can come to me as a salesperson and help me better define that, and your product line may not even come into it in the initial conversation, right? But just an inquiry. What am I really after this year? And if your product line can help me build that bridge faster, well, let's chat, of course. But without that basic understanding, yeah, I mean, all we're doing is pitching, aren't we?
No, you're spot on. What we're trying to do is find organizations that want to grow. They want
Mm-hmm.
to continue to provide more and more value to their customer, their retail customer. And then it's like, okay, here's where we can bring value. That's why people join our organization, is to have a business plan and have partners in multiple divisions that can help them grow across the board holistically. And thereby, it's a better relationship they have with their client and they keep them longer, is the goal.
Of course. Yeah, for the end user, they can only benefit from that. So I think this would be a really great sales system for us to build, because I think it'd help anybody, no matter what stage they're in their sales journey, in their sales career, which is, how do you understand the business challenges of the people that you're selling to? And a business challenge could extend down to a consumer, right? A housewife. If you're selling to the housewife, she's got business challenges. She's got
Right.
concerns about meeting budget, with the groceries, childcare. I mean, all the things that, whether any couple might have, right? That's a business challenge. So I'd love to get this down on paper, so to speak, in my head so that I can use it as well. When we talk about building systems here at Bulletproof Selling, we use the acronym TRIM because we're trimming hope away from a sales strategy. And if it's
Right.
around business challenges, the first T in that acronym TRIM is trigger. What is the
Right.
triggering event that I need to be using as a salesperson before I begin to develop the questions that help me better understand the business strategy of my prospect? Is it when I'm standing up a campaign, or I want to begin pursuing a group of prospects? Is it something I should do with my existing prospects a couple times a year? What is the triggering event you would recommend people really start using if I'm going to reassess or create the challenges that my prospect actually going through?
Well, I think you're asking, Sean, is how do I determine if I've got an opportunity with somebody? And that is only through that gathering of information.
I'm going to say, how do I determine what the challenges are of the prospects that I've already gotten pursued? Let's phrase it that way, because I've got an identified prospect. I'm pretty sure they've bought something like what I sell in the past, or they need it, but I still need to approach the conversation by understanding what their challenges are. And if I'm asking them those questions on the phone, I'm going to come across as an amateur, right? Or in an in-person meeting. So I want to show up ahead of time, knowing basic terminology about their world, about their challenges, about their profit and loss. So how do I begin to attack that on either an existing prospect or a new prospect? Is it when I'm identifying a new market by geography or by type? How do you recommend someone go about that?
I think it's identifying the market and what is that advisor, what is that person really trying to accomplish for their client? Or if I'm dealing directly with the consumer, what do I want them to look like? I need to know that in my head. I need to understand what stories, what situations can I draw on to get them to see what I see? Because I'm not a technical person. So if I get too technical, I'm going to lose most people. Not everybody's an engineer. So I want to have stories that resonate. For example, listen, Sean, you're working in the retiree market. How many clients over 65 do you have that are touching their required minimum distributions? I may go very specific so that I can get them to think about that and say, well, geez, if you had this, or we have this to help those clients. All right, now I'm going to engage and learn more about them and their business. So we try to break it down to 5 pillars, 5 different stories that my team knows cold. So, because all the foundation of every product that I've sold in life insurance really falls into one of those 5 pillars. So we know
that's actually a really great segue into the next part of this process, this acronym. In TRIM, we've got the trigger, which is when we're identifying a new market. And you just said it. How do we make it repeatable? Well, you've got your 5 stories. But if I'm just standing this up in my own organization, how do I determine what my 5 stories are? Are they the 5 big challenges that my prospects might face? Are they the 5 outcomes my prospect is trying to achieve? How do I begin to determine what those couple of stories that I'm going to begin telling are?
I think it's what value are you going to bring, and where does that value fit in for your prospect? Is it saving tax dollars? Is it a vacuum cleaner that goes while you're not there? What is the value you bring to the table? So then you have your stories around that value. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely it does. And so with a new prospect base, first I need to establish the market. That's the trigger. Then I need to determine, what's the real value that I'm bringing to the table here? Because each one of those big chunks of value could be a separate campaign, a separate story, a separate article, or a value-added course or a video that I could drop on my prospect to let them know, hey, I get your world. I understand what you're trying to achieve. And because you told me you were interested in X, here are some resources to help you today to make that happen. Whether you decide to do business with me or not, I'm interested in your success, right? And that really comes to the relationship bit of what we're talking about. So we've got the trigger, we've got making it repeatable, but I'd be willing to bet in the years that you've been in life insurance, those 5 stories haven't always been those 5 stories, or they haven't always sounded like they sound today. So the I in TRIM is making this thing improvable. How do I improve the stories that I'm telling, or the challenges that I've identified that I'm going after in my market? Because a challenge that existed 10 years ago may not even be a challenge today, because technology has just solved it for everybody. So how do I improve those challenges that I'm really communicating to my prospect I can help them with?
So ideally, Sean, it's by listening to your customer. And then as that needle moves a little bit, your story moves to what they just told you. And that becomes a new story in the pillar. It's like, oh, you know what? Or we need to refresh it. I've been using the same 71-year-old widow story about this. You know what? This is now a husband and wife story, and it's even better because I'm listening to my client, getting new scenarios, and constantly looking for new ways to get the trigger, new ways for them to find in their book of business clients that look and need this service. So I think it's always evolving. So you're spot on.
I love the fact is listening to your prospects, listening to your clients, and then I think as part of a team, right? If just one salesperson does this, they might be able to develop a great story. But if we're going to cross that finish line as a team, then it's really imperative that I share what it is I'm learning, and that might look like at a weekly meeting, in my company, annual gathering, the conference where we share best practices, whatever that looks like. To be able to say, hey, this story that we've been telling, I discovered a way to put some rocket fuel behind it, and to be able to give that to the team and not have to worry about, trying to keep your secret sauce to yourself. Because I know that through, raising the tide, all ships raise as well. So we've got this thing, it's trigger. We've got making it repeatable, making it improvable. Now, the final piece of this, I'm interested to hear how you go about doing it, which is the measuring piece. Now, measuring, as we apply sales systems into a sales team, usually looks two different ways. We have to measure two things. One, are my people using the stories and the strategies that I've given them? And then two, what is the effect of those strategies in converting business? So that I know, are they using the system? Is the system working? Or is it just, a lame duck, so to speak? So let's start with the first one. How do you ensure that your salespeople are actually using the stories that you've turned over to them or they've developed with you in their conversations with prospects?
So what we do, we have a kind of a couple of ways of doing this, Sean. One is in meetings, like you said, we're sharing success stories. What went well? And ideally, if it's a real good meeting, they're able to share what didn't go well, what didn't work. Oh, I tried that. Oh my God, I got killed. Well, all right, let's talk about why did you get, so it's having that open dialogue. And that comes with building a culture where people feel comfortable sharing success as well as failure. So I think that culture is huge. And then we have a coach. We've got a sales coach. And we do a group session and then one-on-one sessions so they can hone that skill or learn, hey, I was hearing, John talk and John was saying this. Did he tell you this? And the coach can then help hone that skill so we can all improve.
Love it. Love it. So that's how we ensure that our folks are actually using this thing on the outset. Are they reporting back to us at our meetings? Hey, we tried it. It's working. We tried it. It's not. And then, of course, we mentioned before systems getting notes entered in somewhere. I know a lot of organizations, when their salespeople are entering notes into their CRM, they'll even list, hey, I use story number 3. Right? Or I use strategy number 3 or sequence number 3 or whatever that might look like, whatever predefined thing it is. So as a sales leader, I can look in, at my people's records and say, all right, number 3 is getting a lot of success, not nearly as much as number 5. Maybe we need to look at number 5 again and rework it. So there's a lot of different ways to measure the effectiveness and whether our salespeople are using a system. But now let's look at the other side of the coin, which is how effective the systems are in the strategies that we're talking about, the stories that we're telling around our prospect challenges, and actually converting business. So how do you track back, converted business? What was the strategy or the story or the challenge that really get that prospect the extra little push into coming on board with us and our services? How do you really, look back retroactively and say, wow, that was the thing that was working more than anything else?
So that's actually fairly easy for us in the fact of which product was sold. So
okay.
For example, if it's a cash alternative or a bond alternative, well, there's a specific set of products that we use for that strategy. Okay. Another one, we've got a tax strategy. Well, all right, that can go one of two ways. Did it go the accumulation for a tax-free environment, or did it go to a death benefit because we want to leave a legacy? So it really, that allows me to take a look at that. And then I really measure applications more than the paid business, because the applications in the life side, about 7 out of 10 cases actually get paid. You can do a lot of work and the client may not be healthy. The client may, do something different, buy an annuity, put their money in, in Bitcoin. There's a lot of different things out there that we go up against. So it's, what's that application flow look like by salesperson? So we look at that. That's my first measuring stick. And then the paid business, that's a whole different set of do we have some issues operationally there? So
right. I love the idea of looking back at what business closed, because that'll tell us what story got told. And of course, to look at the, if our salespeople are 60% of their business is getting closed on one product line or one service line, to be able to gather those salespeople in a room and say, okay, this was the thing that was sold the most. Let's look at why. Because if this is a trend that we need to keep tracking on, we can capture more of the market, because we're obviously doing something right here. So let's make sure that everybody's doing more of that, so that we don't just leave this a couple of salespeople that just happen to strike gold one particular week or one particular quarter. So this is a complete sales system. I'm really excited to have built it, because I'm going to go use it with the people that I get to work with. So we've got the trigger, making it repeatable, improvable, and measurable. So obviously, Jim and his team at Advisors Excel, very process-driven salespeople, which is what I love. It's why I wanted to have you on the show. And everybody that I talk to in your organization is running their team like this, which is really, really cool and rare. So Jim, tell us more about how a listener can get in touch with you, because they're probably going to have questions on growing a team. I can tell you that first off. 4 to 94. That's incredible. All right. So you've got a lot of lessons learned under your belt in that aspect, but also about the great services that you offer at Advisors Excel. How do I get more into your world?
So that's pretty easy. Just send me an email, jim.bowman@advisorsexcel.com, or you can call the office. That number is 866-363-9595. One of the things that I really loved when you and I first talked, Sean, about a month and a half back, is the whole aspect of giving back and helping others. And so I'm happy to help anybody. Hopefully some of my lessons or things not to do, I can share those too, because I got a lot of those, Sean. That's probably 3 episodes of what not to do.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I love it. Well, make sure you're connecting with Jim as well on LinkedIn. He's active there, and so is the entire team at Advisors Excel. They do a great job with their social media. So to get more into his world, track him down, and he's more than willing to have a conversation. For us here at Bulletproof Selling, of course, make sure you're following us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for these live streams as they come out, and a podcast that we release every single Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere podcasting can be found. So for more sales systems to help you replace hope with certainty in your pipeline, check out the free resources that, Jim, you've added to now over at bulletproof-selling.com. Well, Sean Rhodes here with Mr. Jim Bowman. It's been a pleasure serving the sales community. Jim, let's get out there and make selling bulletproof.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.